The panic among moderate Democrats about Bernie Sanders is real. Democratic megadonor Bernard Schwartz has reportedly reached out to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, asking them to back a candidate in a bid to stop the surging Sanders. It sounds like a movie. Many insiders are worried that the Democratic Socialists could have the party's nomination all but locked up by next week, after more than a dozen states vote on Super Tuesday. Schwartz told CNBC, quote, "We should know who is the best person to beat Donald Trump. And with all due respect, Bernie Sanders cannot beat Trump. They have good political reasons not to endorse until the primary is over, but I think we are losing too much if we give up on this position," end quote. However, Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters yesterday she'd be comfortable with Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket. Watch.
Whoever the nominee is of our party, we will wholeheartedly support. Our gospel is one of unity, unity, unity.
Unity. Is that a change, or is she consistent with that message?
No, I think she's pretty consistent. It's interesting. Bernie Sanders paints himself as being this outsider. He's been a senator for decades and actually has worked with Nancy and Chuck, as the president likes to call them, on some things that really matter that just don't get a lot of press. So Bernie Sanders is not necessarily an entirely still an outsider. But look, I think some Democrats...
You know he doesn't consider himself a Democrat, right?
Well, I think he does consider himself
Have you seen him acting opposition
part of the Democratic
lately.
Party? Look, I think that there are some Democrats, and I would put myself in this category, who are concerned about a Bernie Sanders candidacy.
Why?
Because he is on the far left of the party, and we've seen that we need to win independence. We saw that in 2018. I actually do, though, think there's a path for him to win. And if 2016 taught us anything,
right,
it's that we all said Donald Trump couldn't win, or many pundits did. I shouldn't say we all. Right. Many pundits did, and he did. Politics is different today than it was throughout, the last 10 or 15 years. I do think, though, that Vice President Biden's going to have a good day on Saturday. And so in South Carolina, so for me, what I'll be watching is Super Tuesday.
Can you share that point that you made before the show that I thought was so fascinating? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but here.
I thought it was brilliant. And so I want her to say it on TV. And I think also that Bernie Sanders has the enthusiasm, and that's what we've learned. Yes. I've said from the beginning that he's the most dangerous candidate.
Yes.
And then you made a really good argument about that before the show. I'm going to put you on the spot. Go for it.
So the idea that the moderate Democrats are more likely to vote for a nominee who's Bernie Sanders than the far left is to vote for Michael Bloomberg if he's the nominee, right? So you need, on the Democratic side, you need the base and you need independents to vote for you if you're going to win the presidency. And that Bernie Sanders is actually more likely to get that than Michael Bloomberg. It's a fascinating question, but one that a lot of Democrats are thinking about.
I thought they were too similar, Trump and Bloomberg. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the president says that Sanders is a lot like him. I mean, that's what he has said this week alone, right? Mm-hmm. And he said his base is bigger than Bernie Sanders, but that they are quite a bit alike. I'm curious to know why you say that, though, about Bernie being able to scoop up more of the part of the party who isn't necessarily yoked to him. Are they going to change, or is he going to change? Is he going to become like socialist light? Or is the rest of your party going to lean so far left they fall over?
I think they will believe that we Democrats are not going to win the Senate. So all of these pie-in-the-sky things Bernie Sanders says he's going to do will never actually become law. So look, if he has an electoral path to beat Donald Trump,
I would like to speak to that very quickly. It doesn't matter if they become law. Look how terrified and angry Democrats are at the power concentrated in the executive branch. When that is now in the hands of a socialist, there is a lot of damage that can be done, and that's what people have to keep an eye on. And don't forget those Supreme Court justices.
Yeah. Why cut yourself short? Keep preaching.
Hallelujah. No, but I think it's funny because your party, your Democrat Party, which had great success in 2018.
With moderates.
And Bernie Sanders' party, those are two different parties. And that's a real Bernie problem. And that's why people are so panicked. And that's why they talk about these down ballot races, because Bernie Sanders has nothing in common with the moderate Democrats who are veterans and a little bit more fiscally conservative and much more appealing to independent voters. And those people are going to have a very tough time maintaining the majority in the House.
And yet, the corollary to Marie's point, if you look at the outcomes in Iowa and Nevada, those moderate and conservative Democrats did, in fact, move to Bernie Sanders in some cases. He had a better, better effort, better luck with people
and
choosing him as their second choice than the others did.
I think you're right about that.
Because your comparison was Mike Bloomberg, and that's been my criticism, kind of people jumping in late to the party, Deval Patrick and others. It's like, well, there's no more water in the pool. Like, where are you guys swimming to? And we'll see if my theory on how much more time Bernie Sanders has had compared with a guy like Mike Bloomberg, how much difference that will make on Super Tuesday. We don't know yet.
I know.